Hello, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome to Nain's Shorts. Still no shorts, and mostly because it's windy as hell outside, so I wasn't gonna wear them. But maybe one day. Stay tuned because one day Nain's Shorts might have Nain in actual shorts. We'll see. But we're back again here in the basement of Physique Magnifique. It's 387 Grand Avenue in South San Francisco, the home of El Guzman and Rick Ramos' colleague Konversation, as well as second home to the Bladed Mind. Stop on by. There's much to do here, much to learn, and a lot of great people that are willing to help you achieve your goals. So please, if you're in the area, stop on by and check us out. Now, I'm always thinking. Not necessarily about good things or productive things, but I'm always thinking. Because of my training, my mind has been geared to constantly absorb and pull information and be inspired from whatever I come across. And before I go on to the topic at hand, I want to just touch on that itself, the source of information, the source of inspiration for thought. Where does it come from? Is yours limited to just one area that you're comfortable with, or do you seek information outside of that, outside of the norm, outside of what you're comfortable with? Maybe something that you disagree with, but hey, something good was said that sparked an idea that went into a different discussion or a different avenue, or something you hadn't considered before. And the reason why I say this is because the inspiration for this topic today comes from a comic. Now, if that word alone turns you off, well, then I'm sorry, but please bear with me. It will get somewhere. And I bring it up because that's where this inspiration came from. A comic book. Something along the lines of saying, I forget specifically what it said, but it said, I don't like using swords. I prefer to use violence. And that struck a chord with me. Again, I'm reading for leisure, just entertainment, and I like it. You don't have to like it, that's fine, but I do, and I read often, and every once in a while there are little phrases, a word, a sentence that comes up that just triggers a thought process, because now I'm thinking violence as a tool to be used versus something that we defend against. Now, at its most basic level, my first thought is, well, as a practitioner of self-protection, I have to maybe one day respond with violence in order to stop a violent attack. But what goes into that? When would I know that I need to use that degree of force to stop somebody who is being violent towards me or towards somebody near me? Have I considered enough to say, I know when to go that far, or I know when to stop before it gets to a point where it's irreversible and the damage is completely done? And you hear about it all the time. People get upset, they get mad, they're arguing, somebody punches somebody, that person falls, knocks their head on something, and all of a sudden, involuntary manslaughter. You just killed somebody because your anger got the best of you, and you weren't trying to be violent, but you just lash out. Now, as a practitioner, I do believe that much of what we do is learning how to mitigate violence. Because the thing about it is, you don't really need to learn how to be violent. I think that's inherent in pretty much all humans. We all have a threshold that once we get to that point, all bets are off. You look at little kids, right? They argue over something and they get frustrated. They don't know how to deal with their emotions, or they don't know how to express them. What do? They lash out physically. You could say that that is a violent outburst from a child. Now, they may come from a violent environment, and unfortunately a lot of people in jail were raised in violent environments, but the parents could be the most wholesome parents ever. They could be the nicest people, never raised their voice, never did anything, and still the child will lash out. Why is that? Now, I'm not here to discuss that point, because that is a way too deep a rabbit hole to go into. But what we do want to talk about is then, how does that translate into our training? Because do we consider when we are playing with swords, with knives, the fact that these cuts, these movements are meant to lacerate, are meant to take a life, are meant to cut arteries and reach things. Now, do we need those things? Do we need to know what it's like to stab somebody, to kill somebody? No, we don't. It's part of the art. It comes from it. Because many of the arts were created in response to violence, whether to create soldiers or to defend yourself against those soldiers. And that's where a lot of these things come from. We hear all the stories about other arts, like Kaju. It was created because it was a violent environment where they were, these founders. And they figured, okay, well, we need to put something together to protect ourselves that's effective against violence. Because those people weren't trained to be violent, they just were. And they just used it against those who they deemed weaker or they had a problem with for whatever reason. And that hasn't really changed, folks. There are groups of people who will hurt you just because. You hear it on the news. Elderly Asian people are being attacked simply because they're Asian and they're weak. Women are still attacked simply because they are easy targets in the eyes of these aggressors. But if we're practicing these violent things, at what point do we stop being somebody learning about violence and we start being violent people? What mindset do we have when we practice these things? How do we then gauge whether we've crossed that threshold? Now, I do not consider myself a violent person. Aggressive sometimes? Yes, but not violent. I do not want to cause harm. But the thing about it is that in order for me to progress in my art, I have to consider the idea that I may have to one day. That if I don't, it could be my life. It could be the life of somebody else. Imagine you see somebody who just hurt somebody down the street, just a couple feet away from you. Aggressively just hurt them because that's their intent. And all of a sudden now they have their eyes fixed on you or somebody you're with. Do you go in easy, just try to subdue? Or do you say, officer, I just saw him hurt somebody and he was coming towards me. I had to stop it, or I had to defend myself. Picking your words after the fact is probably very important, and you should practice that too. But in that moment, split second. But at what point were you the violent person, and at what point were you just defending yourself? How do we gauge that idea? Because you have to cause enough harm for them to stop, but you don't want to cause so much harm where now the judge is questioning, well, at what point were you safe? Was it at stab 17? Was it at stab 36? At what point was that person no longer a violent threat? And you have to consider a lot of the moves that we do, a lot of the techniques that we've learned, they're meant for breaking things. And regardless of your take on it or whether or not you intended to, if that's what you're geared to do, you're most likely going to do it because that's what you trained most. And all of a sudden you realize, oh crap, I just heard a snap. And you pull away and you're like, did I just break that person's arm? Because I didn't take the time to realize, okay, I need to learn a higher degree of control. Not physical control, but emotional control. So you're not that little kid that's so excited to try something out and all of a sudden your partner's arm is broken because you didn't understand that you were putting too much force behind it. And again, it's not the physical, but it's the mental stops. Have you had the class where you're talking about the emotional content that goes into the things that you do? And whether or not you have enough control to say, okay, I'm reaching my threshold. Have you practiced pushing your threshold? Like everything we do, we reach a limit and then we push it a little higher, then our limit changes. Our pain tolerance. I get hit in my hands with sticks all the time. I barely feel it anymore, but if you poke my eye, it hurts like hell. Now, does that mean I'm going to go around poking my own eye so I don't feel it anymore? No, but at least I understand that there is a difference. And then I know how to deal with it later on. Now, demonstration. Rick, would you mind? Because here's the thing. Say hi to the folks.
Hey everybody, I'm not responsible for whatever happens next.
All right, so here's the thing. We don't practice anything. We don't rehearse anything. And what I want to illustrate now is then the difference of Rick's going to be the victim. I'm going to be the aggressor.
Oh, okay.
Possible victim.
Okay.
Potential victim.
Okay, potential.
Victim-y. Right before.
I'm the Okie. let's just call it what it is.
I'm going to be the aggressor, and I want to then discuss what it is that you see here in front of you, because we're trying to. I'm going to go as real as I possibly can. My intent, my mental intent, is to cause him harm. Whether I'm trained or not is besides the point. It's the energy and the idea behind what I'm doing, and he's going to respond, and then we'll see what happens then.
Shit. Good luck. All right. You know, I actually broke your neck there, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted that to be seen or heard of.
All right. Now, in your opinion, was my act violent?
In this context, yes, because I understood what you were trying to do. So you came at me pretty good.
Right.
Now I was actually startled, which is a rare thing, right?
Which I wanted to happen.
But because I moved forward, your range of what you thought was there was not there.
Right.
Which is why I was able to get up on top and really just kind of do what I wanted to do. But I felt that aggression. I felt that you were really trying to get in there. Luckily for me, I understood how you were coming in. And something needs to be said about that. Your attacker, when they're coming at you like that, a lot of their mentalness is...
mental focus?
Mental acuity isn't there. They're just lashing out, which is what you were doing.
Like the small child.
Right. I felt that. That's what I felt.
Right.
I felt like you didn't care what you were doing. You were just going to come in and go.
I just wanted to hurt you.
Right. Cooler minds, relaxed, settled in, did what I did. And that's why I didn't use violence against your violence.
Right.
Is what we're trying to point out, right? I just did what I know what I could do and kept myself on, but I didn't try to go all out. Even though I said I would have snapped your neck, it's where I placed my hands, but I understood.
Right.
And let me just put you to the ground, right? Because at that point, you were actually very off balance.
I was.
Right, the way, because I jostled you a bit, he's ready to go down, and I just dropped you. I didn't need to prolong that. I just wanted to get you on the ground and say, okay, hey, cut it out, and maybe be up here and say, hey,
Right.
have you had enough or whatever? And maybe that might have calmed you down, like, oh shit, I got hurt. So that's where my train of thought would be as a practitioner.
Right.
Because I know better than just go, jack, right?
But yet, so many techniques say, okay, you drop it to the ground.
I could have done, and even
point.
before the ground, like I said, I was
Right.
at your neck. I was like, ooh. When I was jostling like this, I felt that I could just, do all the things that I know.
I felt your hand push up in that motion.
Like this,
yeah.
right?
So.
And that's, let me just drop them. But that's it, because I understand, and I was cool, calm, and collected about it. But like you were saying, at what point?
Because you were startled.
Yeah, I was, whoa, hey, there's nothing. Right? But that's the thing that pops in your head that fast is, at that point, oh shit, is this real or not?
It is that fast.
Especially if we're not doing a demo and somebody just came at me like that. I would not be honestly tell you whether I would or would not have stopped. I'd just drop into the ground.
Well, I know, because it's me, you know me, and it's a controlled environment. But that also is a point to be made.
Exactly, because we understand where we're at. We won't do such.
Exactly.
But had this been a real thing, I probably would have just went ahead and... Well, I don't know if I would have.
See?
It's one of those things.
It's a difficult thing to answer.
Yeah, because you can't outright just say, oh yeah, I would have snapped his neck. Because I don't know. I don't know the circumstances of the real attack. If I seen him already kill somebody, different story. Hey, Clean off.
He killed that guy.
Yeah.
He was going to kill me.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I was
I
dead
was the
next.
Yeah. So
Right.
I'm going to do what I do, and and that's all you can do under the circumstances.
Right.
And I think that's a key word. Under the circumstances, what can you do, or what should you do, and what are you capable of doing? All
Wow.
the little things that are
Yeah.
encompassed, right?
Because a lot of people do have the capability. Well, let me backtrack.
They know how to do it, but they haven't been able,
Right.
or haven't been forced to.
Right. Can they do it in that moment?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been fun to find out. You want to work it? Want to try? Just do something.
No.
Call me crazy Filipino one more time.
Oh.
Come on, just do it.
Well, thank you for kicking
All right.
my ass, Rick. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Hey, it's what I do.
No. Yeah.
All
Apparently.
right, folks, have
Yeah.
fun.
Well, again, what do we learn from that? There's a lot of stuff that happens in a real attack that we don't always consider. Or can we even consider because we haven't been in those things? And people who have survived violent attacks, they can only tell you about that one instance that happened. And that one time may never happen the same way ever again to anyone. Or at least so far gone that nobody really can connect the dots between the two. Because there's so much going on in that moment. Because you have to then consider, what emotional state were you in? Were you already having a terrible day? Were you having just the worst day possible, already tired, already frustrated, already angry, wife's yelling at you, kids are screaming, everything that's just going on, and then somebody gets in your face? Will your reaction be different than something that we just saw right now where he is calm and collected, where he isn't stressed out? Have you pushed the boundaries of what it's like to be in that state and still perform with the amount of control that this guy didn't end up with a broken neck? There's a lot to be said about the tool of violence. And I like that term, the tool of violence. Because in another comic book, someone mentioned, or one of the characters said something along the lines that some people practice so they can use what they practice. Other people practice so they can understand violence. And that's where I want to be as a student. I want to understand violence so I do not become a violent person or become a victim of it. That's my goal. So these thoughts then become important because I want to explore as much as I can, as much as it can be controlled. What kind of violence is within me? And how far am I willing to really go to protect myself? And can I protect myself effectively without becoming violence, without responding with that violence that is being directed towards me or a loved one? Because I tell you, there are some scenarios in my head that I've ran where I would slap the cuffs on me afterwards, simply because I feel that I would be that aggressive and that violent towards somebody that would harm somebody I care for. But I hope that never happens. But till then, I'm going to keep training, and I'm going to keep exploring the thoughts that may one day come up that we may not have considered enough, and that hopefully will keep us out of jail or keep us from regretting our actions further down the line. So, thank you very much for joining me on this Nain Shorts. Please keep in mind, June 4th, Kali Konversation fundraiser seminar is going to be in Manteca. Check out Facebook. There are more information on there. I believe it's $50 for participants, $10 for those who want to eat, and those who want to spectate, $10 as well. So 10 for food, 10 for spectate. So at most $20, and you can come support us. Not to mention there's a raffle with a bunch of great gifts. And yes, folks, if you have been a guest on Kali Konversation, you're in for free. So you better show up because you have no excuse not to be there. And then you can help us by buying tickets for the raffle and bringing students along. Those we will charge. But you, yourself, you're free to come in. But I hope to see many of you there. It is something fun. There's a lot of great people, instructors that I personally want to see instruct. And that's kind of how we built the list of the 5 people that are going to be there, is because we want to see them and we want to be involved. Kelly Kusumoto, the young wrestler, strong woman. Every time I see her, she's a lot shorter than I imagined her to be, because last time she threw me around, it felt like a giant was manhandling me. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Dennis Duarte, the empathy man, who we have to blame for Kali Conversation, and we love so much, so we want him on the mat to show his stuff, and so everybody gets an exposure of how he teaches, because we think he's a phenomenal instructor. Nicholas Moreno, good friend and just super intelligent man that brings a different view to movement in general. And can't wait to see him teach. Conrad Bowie, a man who, oh my God, his laundry list of accomplishments in the martial arts and his Tiga tactics and everything that's culminated into him being a real man. That's martial arts nerd for you people out there. And topped off by, oh, he's also a chiropractor. Holy crap, I forgot about that. A gun enthusiast. Well, I don't know if he's a gun enthusiast, but he also practices too. So he has a huge range of things that he can teach. And our good friend Bob Gomez, who is doing amazing things, especially with young people, bringing them up, which we can't wait to see him teach, just because of the person he is, the wonderful individual that he's shown us to be, and we want to share that with everybody else. And folks, these are my personal opinions. You're going to have to show up there yourself and make your own assessment of these people. This is just what I'm saying. You don't take my word for it. Show up, come support us, and have a great time. Come to learn, come to have fun, and be with good people. So June 4th, save the date.
Hey, why are we doing the fundraiser?
Oh, why are we doing the fundraiser? Thanks, Rick. Kali Conversation is a show that we've been doing for the past 2 years, and it's been completely out of pocket. Now, we don't have enough viewers to be monetized yet on YouTube, so if you know a good 600-700 people that wouldn't mind joining our subscription basis, then by all means, please direct them towards us, because that would help us monetize. We have the hours, we don't have the numbers, unfortunately, and it's getting even more expensive now, between traveling, whether it's airplane tickets or gas, hotel rooms, equipment. It's all, I mean, just eating, while we're doing these trips, it's becoming more and more expensive. And like I said, we've been doing this for the past 2 years completely out of pocket. So anything you can do to help us out, spread the word, donate, whatever you can, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for viewing. Thank you for all the people that have been supporting us from the very beginning, and all the people that are now watching who are new to this. Please, round of applause to each and every one of you, because you make this possible, and it's because of you that we want to continue doing this. One last thing I wanted to say, because I was going to mention that we have responsibility to our viewers to put out the content, but based on the conversation we were just having about violence, I'd like to leave off that because we are practitioners, we have a responsibility to our opponents to make sure that they too make it home alive, even if they are trying to kill us. But hopefully we don't get to that point. But up until then, everyone we train with, everyone we play with, we do have that responsibility towards them to keep them safe, as well as ourselves, because that is what we do. So, till the next one, thank you very much for watching, and as always, 3, 2, 1, cut!